Ancient Rome is remembered as one of the greatest civilizations in history, a place of power, order, and progress. But if you were suddenly transported back in time and forced to live there, the truth is simple. You would probably hate it. Forget marble statues and heroic generals. Forget the glory shown in movies. Most Romans lived in fear, surrounded by filth, noise, violence, and constant uncertainty. Fire could destroy your home overnight. Disease could kill your family in days. One mistake could turn you into a slave. Rome was impressive to look at and merciless to live in. And to understand why one of history's greatest empires collapsed, we first need to understand how its people actually lived. When people imagine ancient Rome, they picture white marble buildings, disciplined soldiers marching in perfect formation, and emperors ruling a powerful, organized empire. This image comes largely from statues, movies, and modern imagination. But this version of Rome was an illusion, a carefully constructed facade designed by the Roman elite themselves. Rome was obsessed with appearances. Triumphs, monuments, and public ceremonies existed to project strength, order, and divine favor. Yet behind this spectacle lived a population that rarely experienced comfort or stability. For most Romans, daily life was not about glory or honor. It was about enduring another day without falling into poverty, illness, or violence. Rome was magnificent to look at, but brutal to live in. And the gap between what Rome wanted people to see and how people actually lived was enormous. Rome was one of the largest cities the world had ever seen, but it was not designed for the people who lived in it. Overcrowding was extreme. More than 1 million inhabitants were packed into narrow streets and unstable buildings. Most citizens lived in insulae, multi-story apartment blocks, built quickly and cheaply. Fires spread rapidly. Buildings collapsed without warning. Entire families often shared a single room, sleeping on the floor, surrounded by smoke, insects, and noise. Clean water existed, but not for everyone. Public fountains were crowded, and sewage systems were limited. The streets were filled with trash, animal waste, rotting food, and human filth. Rome smelled constantly. It was loud, chaotic, and dangerous. At night, there was no public lighting as we know it. Criminals ruled the streets, and violence was common. For the average Roman, the city was not a symbol of civilization. It was a constant physical and psychological assault. Rome did not run on honor or patriotism. It ran on labor, and most of that labor was forced. Slavery was not a side aspect of Roman life. It was its foundation. Slaves were everywhere, in homes, farms, mines, workshops, schools, and even government administration. Many were prisoners of war or victims of piracy. They had no rights and could be punished, sold, or killed at their owner's will. Even free citizens lived precariously. Most Romans worked long hours in physically exhausting jobs: construction, port labor, street vending, or manual crafts. There were no labor laws, no minimum wages, and no medical protection. One injury could end a livelihood forever. Hunger was a constant threat. Rome offered grain distributions, but they were limited and often politicized. Life was cheap. Survival depended on luck, health, and connections, not merit. Movies portray Roman entertainment as heroic and thrilling. The reality was darker. Public spectacles were tools of control. Gladiator fights, executions, and animal hunts were not just entertainment. They were reminders of power. Tens of thousands gathered to watch men kill each other, not out of honor, but for survival. Many gladiators were slaves or condemned criminals. Death was common and expected. Public executions were staged as performances, often with theatrical themes. Violence was normalized from childhood. These spectacles served a purpose: to distract the population, release tension, and demonstrate the absolute authority of the state. Bread and circuses kept the masses fed and entertained just enough to prevent rebellion. Rome did not hide its violence. It celebrated it. Roman family life was far from the warm domestic scenes often imagined. Infant mortality was shockingly high. Many children died before reaching adulthood. Disease spread quickly in crowded neighborhoods, and medical knowledge was limited. Women faced constant danger during childbirth. Life expectancy was low, and death was an everyday presence. Religion offered rituals, not comfort. Gods were feared more than loved, and misfortune was often seen as divine punishment. Superstition governed daily decisions. Amulets, curses, and omens shaped behavior. Most Romans did not expect happiness or fulfillment. They expected endurance. The goal was not to live well. It was simply to live long enough. When we strip away the marble and myths, ancient Rome reveals itself not as a golden age, but as a world where survival itself was the greatest achievement.